So in today's video, I'm going to try and tackle that age-old question, just why do wedding photographers charge, well, basically what we do? Are we simply just trying to take advantage of people like the bride and grooms that are looking for wedding photographers? Or is there a legitimate reason why we have to charge, again, what we charge? Well, stick around and I'm going to try and dive into this in a little bit more detail. Bear in mind, there's a lot of information I've got to cover, so this could take some time. Before we really dive into the finer details of everything, there's something I have to point out, and that's if you live in a different part of the world to what I do. I'm in Suffolk, UK, so if you live in America, Canada, or Australia, or somewhere, wherever it is in the world, your expenses will be different to what mine are. And also, if you live in, let's say, closer to a major city, you'll be able to charge a little bit more for your wedding photography than I can where I'm based. So these are purely based on where I am demographically, compared to where somebody else might be. So please bear that one in mind when I go through my personal kind of expenses, etc, etc. The same kind of principles will apply to you no matter where you are in the world, but just the values will change. Okay, so let's break things down a little bit. So my personal full day coverage for a wedding here in the UK is £1,150, and that's from bridal prep all the way up to first dance, and included in that you get, or the couples that I work with get a USB stick with all their edited images on and full printing rights as well, so they can go off, hand the images out to friends, to family, etc, etc, and print to the heart's content. I don't get any extra money, I just charge one base price. Let's say couples, their wedding is miles away and I have to travel 2 to 3 hours to get there. I'm going to basically apply travel costs as well, so fuel, maybe an overnight, etc, etc. But my base price is £11.50, which is absolutely fine. Again, if I lived closer to somewhere like London, I'm only about 60 miles away, or 60 miles north of London. If I was a little bit closer, let's say within a 20-mile radius, I'll probably be able to charge up to about 1,500. Maybe if I lived right in the centre of London, maybe up to £2,000. So again, where you actually live does vary or can change the actual pricing that you can charge. Always bear that one in mind. So hey, it is what it is. But in my personal area, what I charge is very competitive for the level of photography that I'm personally at. Okay, let's break this down into monthly costs, something that I have to have every single month without fail. It doesn't matter if I've got a wedding on that month or not, these are things that I need to pay for regardless. 3 things: public liability, professional indemnity, equipment cover. 3 types of insurances that I need every single month. If you don't have them, go get them right now, especially if you want to be a wedding photographer. You cannot live without those. Those 3 things alone, let's say, cost me 40 to 45 quid every single month. It's not a huge amount, but it does add up. Another couple of things that I need to pay for every single month. Now, because I work from home, I have, this is basically a spare room in my home, converted it to an office. I can put things like part of my phone bill and my internet usage through my books. It's only a small percentage, so let's say it's 20 quid a month. It's not a huge amount again, but it does add up. A couple of other costs that I have every single month, and that's Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop. Now, because of the way Adobe works, you have to pay on a monthly subscription, so this is another 10 quid a month. And these are tools I cannot work without. I need them every single month. I use them a hell of a lot. I spend most of my life, it feels like, in the editing kind of side of things for weddings. So I need these. It's 10 quid a month I cannot live without. What about my website? I need to pay for basically the maintenance, which I basically do all myself, to be fair. But I need to obviously have a domain name. I need to pay my server charges as well. So let's say this is another 10 quid a month. So not a huge amount again, but you can see it does add up slowly. I need to pay for these things every single month. It doesn't matter again whether I've got any bookings that month or not. Winter weddings or winter time is a prime example of this. Lastly, one of the most important things I need to do, and that is put money aside for the tax man. Because at the end of the tax year, the tax man is going to say, you owe me this amount of money. That could be 5 to 8,000, maybe 10,000 pounds potentially, depending on how many weddings you've done that year or that tax year. So I need to put a percentage of money away every single month, regardless. It doesn't matter, because when you're working a 9-to-5 job and you're employed, your tax is automatically taken out of your wages. We all know this. It's a pretty self-explanatory system. When you're working self-employed, that doesn't happen. You need to basically put money away in a separate bank account to make sure that you've got enough money to put aside so you can pay the taxman at the end of the year. I cannot live without this. So 200 to 300 quid every single month or thereabouts, I put away regardless. It doesn't matter. Some months I'll put away a lot more depending on how many weddings I've got that month. So it could be up to maybe £1,000 I have to put away in that particular month. Some months, if I've got 9 weddings, let's say, in that particular month, I don't know, it could be a lot more. But I need to put that money away and I cannot touch it. Absolutely cannot touch it. It doesn't matter if it's a new piece of camera gear that's come out and it's super amazing. I can't buy it. That money has to stay there. And then at the end of the year, if I've got a, well, I always have had so far because I've been very careful with this, I pay the taxman and anything that's potentially left, then I can use that to treat myself maybe. But I need to pay the taxman, so I need to put that money away. Okay, we all like gear, we all like camera gear, new lenses, etc, etc. So one of the things is actually the cost of our equipment. We need to buy lots of cameras and lenses and lighting equipment and blah 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 blah. Imagine a scenario where I'm walking around with this camera and for whatever reason the camera fails, it just dies on me, or the lens fails and it's just, those are the only ones I've got. Well, I need to be able to reach into my bag and pull out more. I can't just basically walk around with my mobile phone taking pictures. I mean, can you imagine me going to the mother of the bride, please stand there while I take your picture? I'm going to look like a right idiot and I'm going to get sued. I can't afford that. So I need spare gear. For example, the average camera that a professional wedding photographer will use costs between £2,000 to £3,000. Some will use the much higher end cameras, so the Nikon D5, which costs £4,000 to £5,000 each, or the Canon 1DX Mark II, which is in the same kind of ballpark. I personally use, I actually just switched over to Sony, so the Sony A7 IIIs, which are £2,000 a pop. Now I need multiple cameras, so I've got 2 of those, and I need backup cameras for those as well. And they are, I personally have, is the 5D Mark IVs, which are, what, £3,000 each or thereabouts. So that's a lot of money just on the camera body alone. We're not talking about lenses. The average lens, so this here, is going to cost you, again, it really does depend. It's going to cost me personally about 5 to, let's say, 1,500 quid for one lens. I need multiple lenses. The reason as well I need multiple lenses is because one lens doesn't cover everything. It just does not cover everything. Also, I want to make sure I give over the best image quality I possibly can for my bride and grooms, so sometimes that requires a very specialist lens, say something with a very fast aperture like 1.4. So I need to spend out a lot more money to get those very precise lenses, and it costs a hell of a lot of money. So yeah, gear costs. Another thing I need to buy regardless is memory cards. Let's say I've got, I don't know, maybe 300 to 500 quid's worth of memory cards alone. I need spare batteries. That could be 300 to 400 quid or more on batteries. I use a lot of third-party batteries, so I don't buy the original brands. Totally different subject, but it still costs me a lot of money to make sure I've got spare batteries for my camera for when the battery dies. It's a lot of money, so you can see they start to escalate quite quickly. Another thing that we have to buy, and that's lighting equipment. Depends on the actual individual photographer, because some photographers prefer to just use natural light or available ambient light on the actual location. I personally like to use a lot of different flash equipment. So, for example, a flash like this, which is a typical one you'll see on a lot of wedding photographers' cameras, is going to set you back, if you get the name brand, so Canon and Nikon, it could set you back £300–400 each. I buy the off-brand ones. So it cost me like 120 quid each. Still a reasonable amount of money, but I need a few of these. So let's say 4 of these. It's adding up, isn't it? And then I use, these ones are my main kind of flashes. They are the Godox AD200s. Buy them, they're awesome. So I have 2 of these. These cost, I think it's about 350 quid each. So another 700 quid of flash equipment. And you also need the triggers, and they're 40 quid each, and I need multiple of those. I need spare batteries for my flashes as well, and you need multiple. These ones use the, I don't know if you can see them that well, the AA. Regardless, let's get rid of them, who cares. So I need a lot of those, and it's just going to add up very, very, very quickly. There's other things as well, like miscellaneous things, like light stands, soft boxes, wires that I might need for charging, etc, etc. Let's say it's another 400 quid in just miscellaneous things. Yeah, and ball heads and tripods and just all sorts of things. It could be a lot more that I've spent on those. And all of a sudden, you get more of an idea of just the kind of cost that wedding photographers have to have. You know, because equipment costs a ridiculous amount of money. But if you want the best image quality, if you're a wedding photographer or if you're a bride and groom, you need to make sure your photographer has got the best equipment that they possibly can use. It's no good just turning up with like a bridge camera and hoping to get good results. It's not going to happen. So that's cost of gear out of the way, and I'm sure you can appreciate we have to spend a lot of money, but we need that kind of gear to make sure we get the best images for our bride and grooms. So we've got no choice. The next kind of area I want to touch upon, and that is skill level. Now think of this more like, I don't know, maybe a professional sports person. The better they are at that particular sport, the more wages they can demand, basically, because they're better. I mean, let's look at myself for an example. I'm not the best photographer in the world. I'm probably not even the best photographer in my local area. I'm at a decent level, so I can charge a reasonable amount of money for the services that I offer. If I was someone like Jerry Guionis, Ross Harvey, Adam Johnson, Susan Strickland, etc, etc, I could charge a huge amount. I could, but I'm not at their level, so I can't. And this goes for Uncle Bob's too. So they typically have a lot less skill, so they charge a lot less. But you can see it in their work, or you should be able to see it in their work. If you're a bride looking for photographers or just looking for answers, look at what kind of work they actually offer. Look at their skill level. Can they take pictures in low light situations, on a bright summer's day or rainy day? How do they cover the weddings? Because, I don't know, anything can happen with the weather, and you want to make sure that the photographer that is going to be there, if this is you, that you can cover those events or those situations. So skill level is a huge thing. So naturally, the more skilled you are, the more you can actually charge for your services. And it's prevalent throughout the world, not just in wedding photography, but everything. Better the skill, the more you cost. It's as simple as that. Another little area, and that is second photographers. Now personally, I quite often have seconds come with me, but they are people that are learning the job. So they aren't somebody that's a professional wedding photographer or somebody that's using it as their full-time income. They're typically people that have full-time jobs, and they're trying to look at basically gaining experience in the wedding world. So, and this is very controversial, I don't pay them because I'm trying to teach them. If I was going to charge for a workshop, I would be charging a lot of money. But I don't. I give this information for free, and they're able to experience a real wedding day. I make sure they're fed and they're watered, and I cover costs of fuel, etc, etc. But they are there to help learn and also help me do my job as well. So we both get something out of it. Not everybody agrees with that, and that's absolutely fine, but it's just the way I personally work. Now, some photographers will have a dedicated second, and they are professional full-time second photographers, and these people should absolutely be paid. No question about it. You know, they already know what they're doing. They are not there to learn any new skills, so they should definitely be paid. Obviously, if you have a second photographer in your package, or that photographer has a second in their package, they need to be paid, and that is obviously coming out of the overall amount of money. If a bride and groom asks me, Andy, can I have a dedicated second? I will charge for that. It's an extra 100 quid I will put on top of my packages. That money won't be going to me. It'll be going on to the person I'm hiring, because I'm hiring them to do a specific job, and they will get that money straight away. I don't make anything on that. That's just passed straight on to them. But these are all things that you need to add on to your package pricing, etc, etc, because it's still a cost. And now we get on to something I haven't even touched upon, and that is, hell, I'd like to make a living out of this as well. quite honestly, if I'm working for myself, I'm putting a lot of time and effort into something, I want to actually make a wage. And how much you actually take out of your packages at the end of the month is completely up to you. I just typically make sure everything is covered, all my bills, etc, etc. The taxman money's put away, and I just put everything into my personal account, what's left over. If they've got a wedding album or something like that, that is put in, or the amount of that is put into a separate account again, so it's never ever touched until that bride and groom needs their album. You know, quite simple. So I don't necessarily take a wage per se, I just leave everything into one account, make sure everything else is covered, all my bills, etc, etc, and I'm happy that way. It works for me personally. Whether or not that would work for you, I can't say, because your bills or overheads will be slightly different to what mine are. But that's how I work. Oh my god. Okay, so that was a lot of information. I don't even know how long the video is at this point, because I'm just recording it. But that was a lot of information, and I hopefully cleared a couple of things up about costs, how much it costs for this, how much it costs for that, and why we have to charge what we do. So there's a lot of money that goes out for actually camera gear, the insurances, other types of bills, and I haven't even touched upon advertising. That is another huge one, but we all do things differently. I don't actually put that much money into advertising, but I do wedding fairs, which again will cost me anywhere between, I don't know, 100 to 250 quid per wedding fair, and if I'm doing 5 or 6 of those in a year, that needs to be taken into account as well. I forgot about them. How did I forget? Regardless, a lot of information, and hopefully you got something out of it. So all I'd like you to do is just, you know, if there's something you'd like to add to this, just leave a comment below. And if you like what I'm doing on the channel, consider subscribing. Maybe, don't forget, if you are going to subscribe, there's a little bell icon just down here somewhere. If you want to see more videos by myself, click on it and it'll let you know that I've uploaded something. Otherwise, YouTube's algorithm basically will just throw my videos to the back of the queue and you'll never see me, which actually some people might like. That's not a good thing. Anyway, enough of me rambling on. Have a good day, and I will catch you later. Cheers.